Yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Marvelous Chats. My name is Finto. I'm joined by Hoffman and Zaberwolf, and in this video we're going to talk about Miss Marvel Episode 2. If you're new to the channel, hit like, subscribe, and leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think of the episode. Guys, what did you think?
I am just, once again surprised by how much I actually like the show. There are some viewership ratings that came out that's like this is like the lowest viewed Disney Plus show by a lot. And so when I'm watching it, it's kind of like a disconnect where I don't understand those numbers versus what I'm watching, because I think this is one of the better Disney Plus shows that they've put together. They really expanded on her culture, got like, they're developing her friends more. There's kind of like more mystery going on in this episode about like where her powers are coming from, who's this other lady. Like I really enjoyed this episode. It was just solid all around. And I love the character of Miss Marvel, and the actress I think is just doing a absolutely wonderful job on this.
I have to agree on that. Like Vellani is just fantastic. I really think that she's Miss Marvel. Aside from the differences in the powers, I'm starting to believe the character and feel for the character. Even they're humanizing them before they make them a superhero. And there's even moments where she's having faults. Like she's still a kid. She's a teen. So it's like this moment similar to Peter Parker when he got his powers, not realizing like the responsibilities of having those powers. Yeah. And seeing like the Muslim culture and the things that they go through, it's actually, pretty interesting. And I really think that sells the show. I'm really shocked about the ratings because maybe it's because it's just not as fast paced as the other ones. We're so used to the other characters, so they can kind of shoot them forward. But other than that, I think it's all around a great show.
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised with last week's episode. Like, I was kind of shocked that I liked it that much. This week, I didn't like the episode as much, so I suppose I can kind of understand where people are coming from with the ratings. I think a lot of people tuned into the show for episode 1 because the ratings were pretty good for episode 1, and I think they realized, oh, this isn't really for me. For me, last week, I would have said no. I absolutely wanted to watch episode 2. This week, I found that it was kind of it was stepping a little bit too much into the whole kind of teenage girl falling in love thing. And, it's just, I kind of felt my age watching the episode. I'm kind of like, this is not really what I'm into watching anymore. I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm not in high school. I don't care about this stuff, But again, there's aspects of the show that are really fun. I think the comedy in this episode was really nice. I loved when her brother caught the two of them in the restaurant and she introduced them as their cousin. And I was howling at the end of the episode when you found out that they are actually related. I was like, oh my God. It was like, to me, that was kind of like, oh, that was excellent. That was like Marvel comedy right there. And I enjoyed kind of watching her mess around with her powers a little bit and save that kid's life. And, she's kind of getting into the superhero stuff a little bit. But for me, yeah, it just wasn't as strong an episode as episode 1. So I can kind of understand why potentially the viewership was dropping, and I really wouldn't be surprised after episode 2 if more people dropped off going into episode 3. But I just think, it is what it is. We've had the MCU for what, like 12 years now, and it's like, there's a certain expectation for what to watch, and I think this is the first time that we're seeing something like this in the MCU. Like, the closest I think that we got to it before was maybe Spider-Man Homecoming, felt quite young as well, with like Peter only being 15 and stuff. So I think a lot of people are expecting it to be a little more mature, a little more kind of real world and stuff. And do you know what I mean? Like, in this episode, like, we're watching her kind of have a crush on this dude and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't really care about this stuff, But not to take anything away, her performance is fantastic. The support cast are brilliant, and the twist at the end, I didn't see it coming, and I thought it made me laugh. So win-win.
Yeah, I think when they announced the viewership, it was like drastically lower. Like something like Loki got over like 2 million views. I think Moon Knight had like 1.8 million, and then you have this where it like was viewed by less than 800,000 people. Wow. So it's like more than half, which is a dramatic drop for an MCU show.
And they're global numbers, right?
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know everyone's reasons for it, but I know this is the series I was not excited for at all. If we weren't doing the show or the podcast that we do of these YouTube videos, I probably wouldn't have checked it out right away.
Mhm.
I probably would just skipped it because it's like you said, this is like a teenager thing, falling in love. That's the way they promoted it.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's like it's the CW show. It's a high budget CW show right now.
Yeah.
And it's good, and I like the characters and stuff, but the way they marketed it was a complete turn off to me. And again, like I don't think I would have tuned into this if it wasn't for the Marvelous Chats YouTube channel.
Yeah, like I had a friend of mine who I was having a chat with during the week, and we were talking about Obi-Wan, and we were talking about The Boys, and I said, "Are you watching Miss Marvel?" And he said, "Nah." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And like this guy watches, like he's like us, he watches everything. And he's like, "Yeah, it just doesn't look like it's for me." And I said, "I thought the same, but episode 1 was great." And I hadn't seen episode 2 yet, so I was like, "Look, I'll watch a couple and I'll let you know." And he was like, "Yeah, let me know if I need to jump in it or not." But I think there's a lot of people, and obviously the numbers are now quite evident, but there's a lot of people that have that mindset as well. It's just like, this one isn't for me. I could skip this one.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of wild. It is kind of wild when you think about it, because we know she's going into a movie next. So there is like massive connective tissue and everything. Like, she's going to be part of the Marvels. So it does surprise me. Like, could you imagine if we got like Kate Bishop, for example, in Hawkeye, right? And then we knew straight away Kate Bishop is going to be in Ant-Man 3. We knew for a fact that she was going to be there. I think a lot more people would have watched it. And I'm just surprised that we kind of know this girl's future and there's still people not watching it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you think about Captain Marvel and how well that did, it kind of makes sense. There's a lot to write off on, and it's just not showing right now. But I think in terms of the show itself, once we get into episode 3, I think it's really going to ramp up, because as you see in episode 2, the powers seem to be getting a little unstable, in which case, like, they're trying to push it into the next stage, which is like finding out who the villain is. And I'm really excited to hopefully see that the villain is maybe her great aunt or great grandmother. I can't remember which character it was.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be cool. Like, she has to fight family, or it could be someone from a different corporation. And one thing that I thought was weird, though, was that there was no post credits. I was thinking that was going to be the kind of the trope, and like we get some extra scenes. We find out what's going on with the damage control people, or we just get some side stuff. Sometimes it's okay to be a little silly, but again, like, I think there should be more put into the ending because of how much they've given us at the very first episode.
Yeah.
I was really surprised about them not doing the post-credit scene. I was actually waiting for it. The reason I sat through the credits, and like, it was like, what are we doing?
I fast forward just to make sure.
Like, Kevin, why would you do this for the first episode, not the second? Okay, that's not. Let's follow the Peacemaker model, where it's like you just do one every time, and it's like silly and funny, but like it's a good after this, not important for the story moment. That's fun for the audience.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm surprised you skip it though, Finto. Like, I love the music. I think the music in the entire show has been fantastic.
I love the art. Like, I'm watching it for the art, but when it goes to like the names at the end, I always just I have an Apple TV, so I can scroll through it and get the kind of thumbnail. So I just scroll through it just to make sure that there's nothing else that I'm missing at the end. But yeah, like, look, I think it's good, and I feel like I don't need to see a villain in this show. Like, I think, she's so young and she's so new that I think if we got like 6 or whatever episode, is it 6 or 8? I don't even know how many episodes are in this. So if we get 6 episodes, 6 half-an-hour episodes on this show, like, I think it's enough to just kind of build her up, and then she moves on. I don't need to see her fight a villain. Like, she's nowhere near ready to fight a villain yet. Like, she could barely save that kid. You know what I mean? From falling. Like, she nearly did more damage to the kid trying to save him. You know? So
I don't know if you caught this or not, but the kid was wearing the sneakers that were stolen from the mosque, whatever.
Oh my god!
Early in the episode.
That's cool.
So I love that little like touch. I think I would like a villain in this. Like, I don't think she can go up against anyone like crazy, right? But I think I would like, something there. Even though they marketed this thing as like a CW teenage stuff, I think you could very easily get a lot of like Homecoming vibes in Spider-Man. Because if you think about it, Spider-Man was the story of like a high schooler kind of coming of age, like dealing with his powers and all this stuff. And so it's very similar in a sense to where Miss Marvel is. I think one of the reasons Spider-Man Homecoming was so good was because of the Vulture. And so I think we need something like that in Miss Marvel, that is kind of, for her to play off against, in some sense.
Yeah.
Because I think the show could just get dull for me. And if it's just about her and like her relationships with her friends and
Yeah.
love interests, I'm just like, oh boy, okay. I
Bro,
like the show a lot. I'm out.
I think that's what it's going to be. Honestly,
Oh,
I really do. I think that's what it's going to be. And I think like the most exciting thing that could happen in the show is an Ant-Man appearance, because if there's been a second Ant-Man reference now, there's been an Ant-Man reference in each episode. So I think like, if they get him in for a scene or something like that, or she just kind of bumps into him or meets him in passing or something, I think that's about as exciting as this show gets, to be honest.
Well, I think they squashed the whole like looking for a relationship kind of situation because of the whole cousin situation. So like we're probably not going to see that again. She's probably not going to be pining for anybody in anytime soon. Of
Mhm.
course, Bruno is pining after her, so like we're probably going to see that maybe in the 5th or 6th episode. Maybe he'll reveal that he has feelings for her, and then she's going to be like, I don't know how to feel about this, and might mess up the friendship. And I think that'll be a nice touch for the show itself. But overall, I think now we're going to get into the point where she's going to start being a superhero. And plus, now that she's talking to her family, I think we're going to see the transformation from like the Captain Marvel suit into the Miss Marvel suit. And if you notice during the gathering when they're all walking around, the outfit that she's wearing is very reminiscent of what she's going to be wearing in the future. She has the red scarf, she has the blue outfit, and
Mhm.
so like it's a foreshadowing, and I'm really excited to see that transformation soon.
Yeah. I'm excited for the rest of the series. I feel like Disney's going to be really watching the numbers on this thing and like where it goes, because this is kind of the first real obscure character that they've kind of promoted and gave their own TV show. Normally, they take someone who like is Kate Bishop, who's kind of like not the most popular character in terms of like definitely the MCU. Like everyone knows Hawkeye, not Kate Bishop from the comics. They usually kind of saddle those types of characters with other bigger named, and this is like the first one that's like by herself. So I'm interested for like Armor Wars and Ironheart and Secret Wars or whatever they're doing. Will people show up for it if it doesn't have that big marquee name, like Loki,
Yeah.
like Hawkeye?
Yeah, I don't know, like, cause like Moon Knight did good, right? And
That's fair.
not a lot of people knew Moon Knight, and I think like Ironheart, I think kind of everyone's going to be like, oh, this is the continuation of the Tony Stark story, so they're going to
Mm,
want to see it. You know what I mean? And the same with Armor Wars. So I think they're kind of cheating in a way because they've got that rich kind of backstory already there with Tony Stark, and like, how does Ironheart kind of adopt Tony's technology and push it forward and stuff. I think that's very interesting. But yeah, like Moon Knight was absolutely just its own thing, and I think it
true.
did quite well. But that was like a really dark and psychological show, so I think that it's very different and it's a lot more mature. And I think I think the vast majority of the MCU audience is a lot older. It's like people our age and people a bit younger than us and people older than us. It's been around for so long now that I think the main, like, it's probably 18 to 34, I'd say, is the main kind of MCU following. There's I don't know if there's that many like 10-year-old girls that are watching the MCU and like praying for Miss Marvel, so it's going to be interesting. Like I'm a simp for the MCU. I'm going to watch everything that comes out, including probably the animated stuff, and I'm probably going to enjoy all of it. Whether I go back and rewatch this show is another thing. That's probably not going to happen, if I'm being honest. I haven't rewatched a lot of the shows, to be honest, but I definitely don't see myself watching this one again. I'll skip past it. I just kind of
Fair.
need to know what happens.
I really think that the whole idea about the other character, like these younger types of characters, the possibility of bringing in the young Avengers, the possibility of the West Coast Avengers, with Wanda and Hawkeye, and it seems to me like it's bleeding off of the greats. You have Bruce, you have Iron Man, you have Captain America, Thor, and they're kind of like putting up their mantles pretty soon. I'm kind of like hoping that Thor doesn't put up his mantle. I think Thor is a fantastic character, and I would love to see even more adventures with him. But for the ones that have put up their mantle, like you could see that it's trickling down, and it's bleeding into these other characters that are taking up because the other ones are missing. So when we see Ironheart, I think everyone's going to get this feeling of like, oh man, I miss Tony. And then that brings up this feeling of like, oh, I want to rewatch Iron Man movies and whatnot. And so that kind of brings up the hype again. And then, you see Kate Bishop come back in some other show or movie, and you get excited. You're like, oh, maybe Hawkeye will be around. You kind of remember those characters, and I think that's what really matters for these like new heroes coming up, and for the fact that they need to captivate the younger audience. It's like you said, you don't really think that 10 to 15-year-olds are going to be watching stuff like this, but now that you've got Miss Marvel, that's a possibility. You see that all these characters that are much younger than the usual like 30 to 40-year-olds are showing up, and I think that's great. I'm very excited for this. This is one thing I really like about Marvel as opposed to DC. I think DC has a lot more like adult characters, and therefore it should be more adult oriented content. But with Marvel has a vast amount of characters, both young and old, that can touch the hearts of anyone.
True. Yeah. Look, I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I'll definitely be checking out episode 3. We'll be doing a video on episode 3, so if you're new to the channel, leave us a comment below, let us know what you think, and drop a follow and like the video. And we'll see you in the next one.
Later,
All right,
everyone.
guys. Bye.